All right, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to be doing today is talking about the section on the agrarian movement on the Gilded Age. So what I need for you to do is go ahead and take out that papers I gave you and go ahead and highlight what I'm highlighting, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I'm going to be talking about the items on the right hand side also. So let's go ahead and start with the agrarian movement. And agrarian, of course, means farming. So what we have here is what's highlighted in the 1870s, when a majority of the Americans still lived on farms. It's not like today. Today we have a small percentage of Americans that live and work on farms. Back then, a great majority of Americans lived in farms, and they were greatly affected by what was going on. The problems of the farmers, and we've talked about this before in the Great Plains, that they had an arid climate where there was little rainfall, but they introduced new machinery and new fertilizer, and it led to an abundance of crops. Okay, this led to great opportunity, but it's something that farmers had a problem understanding. The harder they worked, the more crops they produced. You would think they would make more money, but it doesn't work that way. The more crops that are out in the market, the lower the price. So here you have underlined food prices began to drop. And notice what it says. In 1866, it went from 66 cents down to 10 cents in 1889. That is a big drop. Okay? So what you're going to be seeing is they're going to have organizations pop up to try and help them. The first one that is going to pop up is something known as the Grange movement. And this was more, notice what I have highlighted or underlined, the social club. And the idea here is they were isolated. They lived out in the middle of nowhere. Their nearest neighbor could be 10, 20 miles away. So if somebody got hurt, they were in trouble. If they had a son that was of marriage age, they were in trouble. So the Grange movement was supposed to get these families together, introduce new farming techniques, have picnics, find wives for the sons or husbands for the daughters. And after a while, they began to urge for economic and political reform. So if you notice right here on the right, these are some of the problems that they encountered, some of the difficulties. Number one, weather. They had winters that would kill their crops or their poultry, their cattle. They also had droughts. They had all sorts of problems with weather. Railroads, this was one of their biggest problems. They had no control over that either. The idea of small farmers were sometimes getting charged more than bigger farmers. And as I mentioned, the harder they worked, because it became more productive with the fertilizer and the new machinery, more crops, lower crop prices. And of course, they still had a mortgage to pay. And let's look at the political cartoon that I have over here, or actually it's a poster, okay, and it's on the Grange movement. So let's move back. Granger cooperatives. What you're going to be seeing is farmers are going to organize. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to hold on to their crops. They're going to store their crops. The idea here is less crops out in the market, more the higher the price. Okay, so you're going to be seeing that these cooperatives are going to fail. So again, the biggest problem that the farmers are going to have are the railroads, because they feel that they're being overcharged by them. So what you're going to be seeing is they're going to begin to organize, and they're going to be voting for people at the state legislature. This is at the state level, where they're going to be passing laws to try and help them. One of those ways that they try and the legislators try and help is by passing this Supreme Court case, Munn versus Illinois in 1877. And the idea here is the state is going to try and regulate the railroads. Now let's look at this political cartoon right here. Here you have a West, and by the way, when I talk about farmers, I'm talking about the West, Western farmers. if you notice here, you have a Western farmer, and he sees the approaching not airplane, the approaching train, and on the tracks are all these people, and the farmer is trying to warn them of the dangers of railroads, but they simply will not listen. Look, this guy's over here doing something with his hands. This guy's asleep. This guy's reading newspapers. Western farmers are not being heard. Now think about it. There's two political parties. You have the Republican Party, who is focused on industry and its workers, and then you have the Democratic Party, who is just focused on the Southern farmer. Remember, Gilded Age includes the period after the Civil War, which is Reconstruction. So again, the Democrats are solid South. They vote for Southerners, and that's who they're focused on. The Western farmers, they're pretty much on their own. Another case that is going to be passed is the Interstate Commerce Act, and this one is again trying to help the farmer. Okay, and the idea here was the railroads should charge reasonable and fair prices. Okay, but you're going to be seeing that the federal government is going to, it's more bark than bite. And at this time period, you have this laissez-faire politics where the government is not to be interfered. So you're going to be seeing that the farmers went from farming to being grangers, and now they're going to form a third party, and this party is going to be known as the Populist Party. And the populist means population, the people, okay? And they wanted government to take a larger role. Here you have, as I mentioned, they created a political party. The Republicans focused on the North, Northeast, Democrats in the South. Now, the Populist Party are going to send two candidates to the to run for president, and of course, both of them are going to be unsuccessful. The first one is the election of 1892, and the populist candidate is going to be James Weaver, not a very popular person. Notice what he's going to be pushing for, the production of silver to be used by the government to coin. The second election is going to be in 1896, and please highlight this name right here, William Jennings Bryan. Write it in blood, font 72, whatever. This guy, you're going to be seeing him for the next 3 units. William Jennings Bryan, as you notice right here, is a candidate for the Democratic Party. And he's going to be talking about his Cross of Gold speech. And what he's saying here is that gold is not good for the country, and it sacrifices many of the middle and lower income people. So because of that, William Jennings Bryan is going to become a champion of the farmers, both the Southerners and the Westerners, the middle class and the poor. Because of this, the Populist Party is going to choose Bryan as their candidate also. So the 1896 election, William Jennings Bryan is backed by both the Democratic Party and the Populist Party. Okay? Let's look at the legacy of populism. Also, what you have to remember during this time period, in 1890, between the 1892 and 1896 election, the United States is going to have what they call a panic, and today we would know it as a depression. And this is going to be the panic of 1893. And because the prices are low and a lot of these farmers are losing their mortgages, they feel that they need to get somebody elected. The legacy of populism, it's going to die out, okay, as a party, but it's going to be having a lasting effect. For number one, it is a third party. What does that do? It disrupts the two main parties, in this case the Democrats and Republicans. And what it also does is, notice, it provides an outlet for minorities. Blacks, Mexicans at this time are going to be focused on the Populist Party. And one of the reasons that the Populist Party is also going to be unpopular in the South is because the Western farmers would allow black farmers to join the Populist Party. Okay? So some of the things that they're going to be pushing for the populist platform is a graduated income tax, direct election of senators. At this time, the average citizen does not vote for senators. They get voted in by the members of the House of Reps. Also, what you have to remember is when these third parties die off, one of the other two main parties are going to adopt its ideas. All right, that's it for right now. Thank you very much.